The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. I am back. Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. And as you know, I'm Ralph Tycho, and I have a theme of this podcast. It is Lovin' Baseball when we were 12 and innocent. And I use it as an excuse to get to know first-time guests who are baseball fanatics. And you qualify as that, Ray Kripaitis. And if I'm not pronouncing that right, please tell me.
Right on the button. That was perfect. First-time shot. Very good. Yes, I've had a lot of different pronunciations throughout the years, but you hit it on the
button. If you spell it out, I can't think of any other way to pronounce it, and I'm glad I got it right because it's important to me. Names are important. When I was a kid, my dad had my surname changed from Tikachinsky in kindergarten or after kindergarten to Tycho. And both names drew a lot of confusion over the years, and so I'm glad I got that right. Ray, where you from?
I want to thank you for having me on the podcast. I really appreciate this. I love talking.
Well, I have the theory that it's a good podcast if I produce it right and get interesting people, and you're articulate and well-spoken about my favorite subject, and that's baseball. Where were you in, what season was it, baseball season, when you were 12? And I used 12.
I was, by the way, New Jersey born and bred, so this is where I am.
All right.
Yeah, Jersey Shore, everybody ocean. I was 12, I was born in August, so 12, I guess that would have put me to August of 1972, so that summer, I guess, would have been when I went into the 12-year-old mark.
Okay, and were you a Met fan or a Yankee fan or just a baseball fan?
Big time, crazy Yankee fan. Like cry if they lose, get mad if they lose, or they make an error. Like the works. I was a fanatical Yankee fan back then.
Okay, and what kind of music? I'll get off the subject of baseball just for a second. What kind of music did you listen to, and what books did you read?
At the 12-year-old mark, going into 12,
yeah.
Ralph? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly sports books. I was, sports biographies. My first book was, I don't know if it was 12 or going into 13 even. Ray Nitschke had a book, Mean on Sundays, but that was a big one. Okay. Mostly magazines, not a lot of books. I think when I hit 14, it was the Babe Ruth biography for Robert Creamer. But by age 12, Sports Illustrated, Sports Digest, sport magazines, sporting news, all those every week. So that was my reading, the sports magazines.
Oh, that's a good way to grow up, and just having the ability to recognize. You mentioned sporting news and sport magazine. That was basically the two of the greatest periodicals of its time. The way there's still a sport magazine and there's still a sporting news, but it's a far cry from what we grew up reading. And so you were blessed along those lines. Music, what did you listen to?
Music, I was into the top 40, that 70s 40, top 40 sound, anything, top 10, I loved anything back then, Playground in My Mind, all those, bubblegum type songs, that you could think of back then. I started to get into the Beatles a little bit then. I became a huge Beatle fanatic after that, but that's I was starting to get into them. I mean, it was after they broke up. It was on the cusp of it, so I was aware of it. Still kind of young to, get what they were about at the time. But mostly pop music, bubblegum music was really it, the No No song by Ringo, that kind of stuff.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. We were blessed with, we went from rhythm and blues to the English influence and the Beatles and the Stones. Did the Stones have any influence on you?
A little bit. I mean, I thought they were cool. I mean, there's always a rivalry, growing up. I guess into the 12, maybe not as much with my friends. It was either you were the Rolling Stones, which a lot of the cool guys were, like the tough guys in the neighborhood like the Stones, and then it was like us pop music type guys that, that got the Beatles. And I always figured they just didn't get it, with the Beatles. I figured it was their issue that they couldn't comprehend that the Beatles were better than the Stones. So I never argued with them, but I was a little arrogant.
Who would have thought that 60 years later they'd still be performing or whatever it is? And the tragedy of the Beatles runs rampant, but Paul McCartney's still out there, and he's a sir. Who brought you to baseball?
Probably my father, I'd say, Ralph. I was, going into the 60s, 1960s, later, 68. I just kind of discovered it, and I was at that age where you become aware of it, and then every year after, more cognizant. 12, like you said, is like the magic number where you're like fully aware of it all. So probably
Absolutely.
My father, was a Yankee fan. Yeah. So that was probably my influence there.
Your dad did he tell you stories about being a Yankee fan when he was a kid?
He was actually a Brooklyn Dodger fan. He told me those stories. Usually those fans go into the Mets, Brooklyn or New York Giants. But I don't know why, but he got into the Yankees. And, I kind of got into it myself, Rob. He kind of turned me on a little bit. He wasn't like a huge fan. And then I put on Channel 11, WPIX out here, and then I just watched every game. And then I became sort of addicted to it all. I played it. I was pretty good playing. And it was unbelievable. It was crazy. I always felt sad when the games ended,
You see, that's the passion. And like you said, you explained it best. Intellectually, you're blooming. And if you combine that with fandom, the game means a lot more to you when you were 12 than it ever will be or ever did since. What's disappointed you about the evolution of baseball since you were 12?
Well, I would be more of a purist. I didn't mind the DH. That was okay. As opposed to like right now, Ralph, you're saying? Or the evolution to right now?
Yes. No, right now. The result of the evolution. What disappointed you? And I'll follow that up with what do you really like about the game now? What specific thing do you really like about the game that even though it's a big change from when you were a kid? But start with what disappointed you about the game over the years?
Well, it's, like I am the purist. I used to love the old style, bunting the runner over to second, playing the small game, which back when I was 12 was kind of what it was. Pitchers going the distance. You had the one reliever come in at the end, for the save. I don't like the replay. I thought it was cool that there were mistakes. I mean, you knew that they cheated at second on a double play, and everybody kind of winked and knew that's the way it was. And I thought that was just part of the game. So I really don't like the replay. They got to stop the game, and there's no more arguments from the manager because the video says the story. At the end of the game, it could be a play at the plate, and then you got to have the replay. You stop play for 5 minutes. It just, to me, it just kills the momentum of the real game because I like it the way it was in 1925.
Right.
So, and Powerball now, the strikeouts. I don't like that. Swinging for the fences. Which is kind of universal. I don't think many people like that now. So, that's what comes to mind, Ralph, off the top of my head.
Beautiful. Very well spoken. And
but then when you go to the games, it's different, of course. With everyone has their phones, and you can't get close to the players for the autographs. They play the music loud between the innings. So I like the old style better that way too. Where everyone's focused on the game. There's nobody, I get it. People like to dance and they show stuff on the scoreboard. Who's going to win the race between like the dice, that race or whatever it is. Yeah, I kind of get it, but again, I like the in-person way it was back then too.
Okay. What about the game now that you're really impressed with? I was going to give my answer to that in my head, and see if it matched yours, but I'll tell you if it does. Well, yeah, naturally, I'm impressed by the athletic ability, the power, the size of these guys. Absolutely. Sometimes it amazes generation to generation. And I just did an interview a hockey interview with Craig Patrick, who's a Hall of Famer and has quite a lineage of hockey. And he was saying that when he was coming up, his either Muzz or Lester, they were discussing the growth of different generations and how, he was saying that Craig's generation was much better than his. And I responded, that's the way it is in every sport. So as great, the only way to compare ball players of different generations is with themselves, with their peers, because you can't compare a Louis Aparicio to a Jeter, for instance. Different generations, different opponents, different field conditions, and but we can compare them with each other. In the 60s, the late 60s, early 70s, who was your premier athlete, the premier ball player that you idolized athletically?
You mean baseball, Ralph, or like everywhere?
Yeah, baseball. Start with that.
I was, Bobby Mercer was my first idol as a kid, so he was my guy, he had the looks. He was, turning into a superstar, never quite fulfilled it, but he had everything going for him. And I met him once at an autograph signing when I was in 6th grade. And, he was my guy, number one, so other than that, in that era, there was no one, I respected all the greats, Roberto Clemente's and all those guys, but Mercer, I got him on TV every day, so I kind of lived through him. And when I met him at that time, when I was in 6th grade for the autograph, I was, being a kid, meeting your idol, that's another feeling that only a 12-year-old could get, which I was about that age actually, so he was the guy.
And who was the announcer that brought the game to you the best that of those? Was it Rizzuto? Was it Mercer? Who really made the game come alive for you?
Well, yeah, it was that combination. It was Rizzuto, Mercer, then Bill White came right around when I was at 12 mark. There was another guy that was before him, I think Bob Gamir. But when White, Rizzuto, and Mercer were in there, those were the guys. They were like, they were like your family, So they were the group. I liked them all. They were all a little bit different,
All right. Now, initially, when Mercer was traded for Bobby, not Barry Bonds, this goes back a way, what was your first, was it shock? Was it, we got a great ball player in Bobby Bonds, but he had been traded, and or it was the first of the trades that sent him around the majors for a number of reasons. But as a kid, your favorite Mercer is traded. I went through that with Sal Magli when he was traded to the Dodgers, and I was about that age, and it was crazy making for a kid. How did you feel about the Mercer trade?
Yeah, as great as Bobby Bonds was, because he was like the first 40-40 guy or 30-30, whatever it was. We all knew he was, a great player in the National League. Yeah, it was totally devastating. It's like a family member died. It was like you couldn't believe it. That they would do that. I knew it was probably an even trade, talent-wise, but to me, Mercer was a Yankee. So I was a little shocked by it, actually.
Okay. What did you take from the Fandom experience to your business world? What you did for a living? What transcended?
Wow, that's a great question. Maybe I'm just talking off the top of my head that got into that I took with me was maybe the passion of like sports people, like a guy that's into sports. Like if you meet them, you just know. And then there's guys in the world that aren't into sports. So when I became into more business, most of the guys were into sports. So there was sort of a natural rapport that people just knew I was a big sports fan. And it probably sounds weird because I never spoke about thinking about like this, but I don't know. It just makes you feel part of a club that sports, and it seems to, I felt, give a little advantage to me that guys were able to relate to me, because the higher up you go, it just seems like the more the guys are into sports, So I don't know. I just felt it gave me a little edge, just to be aware of it all, and that's what comes to mind.
Beautiful. Hey, Ray, you're a terrific interview. I hope you'll come back someday.
I hope so. I appreciate that.
But now let me give you a chance.
I just try to be myself.
Let me give you a chance to talk about what your current passion is.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Ralph. Yes, let me think how to start it off. I was getting involved more in the cryptocurrency world because it's kind of a new thing, and I was intrigued by it. And I kind of morphed into the NFT world, which is non-fungible tokens. So it's in the cryptocurrency. It's like a cousin of it. It's in that world. And I just love the freedom of it and what it represents. And then I got involved with a charity in Ukraine, which is called MOAS, MOAS.eu, which is doing support for the victims in Ukraine. I guess it's like this part of my life now where I want to feel good about something and help things. And I kind of got led into this from the Ukraine, war with Russia. And we developed an NFT in support of those war efforts called the Peace Eagle. And it's a Peace Eagle NFT, which is an eagle that basically represents all the help that goes into war, which is a nurse eagle. We have a medic eagle, an ambulance eagle. We have 1,991 eagles that people could purchase for $175 starting July 29th. We're going to release 200 of these July 29th. And when we sell out, we're going to donate 60% of our royalty towards MOAS and the Ukraine effort. Migrant Offshore, this is what it stands for, Migrant Offshore Aid Station, MOAS. So we're going to donate royalties towards them to care for people that get wounded in Ukraine and need services and ambulance services and evacuation services. So people that are involved with us will actually be helping the war efforts of victims. It's not one side or the other side. It's all victims, no matter who it is. So we're not taking a side, but we're taking a side of peace and a side of helping people that are victims of war, mostly civilian, casualties. So that's cool, and we'll see how it goes. But we just launched a Discord at Peace Eagle NFT, and we're excited about it because it's a chance to, help people, and it gives us a NFT with a cause. It's not like a Bored Apes, which was a massive success. This is actually going to help something huge. And then we got plans afterwards if people get involved with. We have a utopia metaverse around the world. Our Peace Eagle holds different flags that are in support of Ukraine, for the peace war effort. So there's different flags that we're going to parlay into a metaverse, like in about 3 or 4 months out. So there's a lot more to it, but, peaceeagle.io, if anyone's listening and want something cool and that believe in helping people that are, innocent victims in the war, they know about us on the ground. I mean, I speak to them about twice a week, and they're very appreciative of our efforts, to help them, because no one's ever done this in this kind of degree with NFT, before. So we're kind of the first that we could find that are doing this, So that's exciting to me.
You casually say, that's cool. It's more than that's cool. It's absolutely fantastic that you do this. And you articulated it very well. I hope there's someone out there that can really help you in some way, because you've helped me, my attitude, my awareness, just from your explaining what you do. Ray, again, terrific guest. Come back soon if you will.
I will. Thank you, Ralph, for having me. I appreciate it. A lot of fun. Absolutely.
And that is my motto. If it ain't fun, it shouldn't be getting done. So
I love it. I've got to post that up. Yeah.
Please do. I know I'm paraphrasing the late Johnny Cochran there, but that happens to be true in life. And it sounds like you have fun in what you do. And like I say, this has been a nice morning. Nice to get to know you. I'm going to send you a link to this interview before the day is out. And if you will post it in as many places as you can, or use it in a way that people could get to know you better, because you really opened up, and I enjoyed the process.
Thanks, Ralph. I really enjoyed this too. This was great. I appreciate it. And
all right,
look forward
everybody.
to getting the interview. Yeah.
Terrific. I'm glowing. Adios, everybody. Happy trails. Comfortably Zoned Radio Network.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned Network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.